All right, in this video, we are going to be finding slope from 2 points. Okay, so they want us to list the slope definitions again. Guys, since they've already listed slope as one of them, we can't list that again. So another one is unit rate, rate of change, steepness of a line, and rise over run. So we have 5 different things that we can call slope. So anytime you hear one of these 5, we're talking about the same number. We're talking about the same part of our unit. All right, so when we're finding slope from 2 points, we are going to follow a specific formula. Remember in our last lesson, we found slope on a graph. And when we found slope on a graph, we had to find 2 perfect corner points. Each of those corner points could have a location. So if I put a dot on the graph here, and I put it here because that's where the line went through, then each of those spots has a coordinate that gets applied to it. So this is finding the slope when we don't have a graph to look at, okay? So remember before, we always went rise over run. And rising affects the up and down movement, which is our y-axis. Our run was left and right, which affected our x-axis. We went left and right, which is left and right on the x-axis. So we are going to find the change in y's over the change in x's. And there's a slope formula that we use. So we are going to follow the formula y1 minus y2, because minus means change, over x1 minus x2. So it's the difference in y values over the difference in x values. So the first thing we need to do is label our points. And what I mean by that is, in this point, the 3 is my x value, the 2 is my y value. Over here in this point, the 5 is my x value, and the -1 is my y value. So I need to label each of those points x, y, x, y. And then since this is our first set of ordered pairs, they get a 1. That means this set over here get the 2's. So this is my first ordered pair, and this is my second. Then all we have to do is drop the numbers in the formula that we wrote up above. So guys, slope, remember, always looks like a fraction. So I'm going to put that big fraction bar there. And then these minus signs are always in our problem. So I always start off my problem by putting those in there, because if I don't, I'm going to forget and think that my negatives are those minus signs. So the first thing I need is my y1. So over here in your points, y1 is the value 2. So I'm going to put the number 2 in there first. Then I need the y2. So if I come over here to this other point, y2 is the value -1. Guys, notice that I went ahead and wrote the -1 because this is my minus sign. It is always there. So then on the bottom, I need my x1 first. So that's 3. And then I need my x2, which is 5. Once I have all 4 of the numbers plugged in, I need to calculate and simplify. So you're going to take 2 minus a negative 1, and we should get 3. And then we're going to take 3 minus 5, and we should get a negative 2. Guys, you're going to type in 3ABC negative 2 into your calculator and see if it simplifies. Remember, if you get a mixed number, you have to hit that second ABC button again to switch it back. So 3 over negative 2 does not simplify, so that's our final answer. You need to always make sure that you show all of your work. Show all of your work. Remember, if I'm going too fast, you can always pause the video and rewind it. So on this next slide, I'm going to show you that we get the same answer. So remember, our answer on the previous slide was 3 over negative 2. And we used these 2 points. So guys, if we were on a graph and I plotted the point positive 3, positive 2, and I plotted the point positive 5, negative 1, and I connected those 2 points. Remember, we only need 2 perfect corner points in order to find the slope of a line. So the first thing I notice is it's negative. And then if I find the slope from a line, I count rise and I count run. So rise is 3 and run is negative 2. And that's the exact same answer that we got when we used the slope formula and we calculated it. It works every time. All right, so we're going to do a few examples together. On the back of your note sheet, you should probably write down the formula again so that you don't have to keep flipping back and forth. Okay? So again, the formula is y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. The first thing you're going to do is label your points. So xy, xy. And since this is the first set of ordered pairs, they get a 1. And then this second set gets a 2. So then the first thing you're going to want to do is draw that big fraction bar and your 2 minus signs so that we don't forget about those. So on the top, we're going to always put our first y, which is negative 19, minus our second y, which is a negative 7. On the bottom, you're going to put your first x, which is a 1, and your second x, which is a negative 2. And then you're ready to do the math straight across. So negative 19 minus a negative 7 is a negative 12. And 1 minus a negative 2 is a positive 3. So if you double check to make sure you can simplify, I know that 3 will go into 12 and 3. So that negative 12 becomes negative 4, and that 3 becomes a 1. So we get the answer negative 4 over 1. We'll do a couple more real quick so that you can see every type of problem that you might run into. So we have xy, xy. This is my first. This is my second. We're going to plug it into the formula. So my y is first. So 8 and then 16 over 20 and then 9. So we get negative 8 over 11, which does not simplify, so that's our final answer. All right, these last two that are on your note sheet, I'm going to go through really quickly the difference between these two. So you're going to still want to label both of them just the same way you would before, but I want to talk about the difference between our answers that we're going to get. So I'm going to run through these real quick. So on number 3, we should have 3 on top, another 3, and 19 minus 20. So we get 0 over negative 1. And then over here we get negative 13 minus 8 and 17 minus 17. Again, guys, if you want to pause, you can. So we get negative 21 over 0. Guys, notice that in this one, the 0 is on top. And in this one, the 0 is on bottom. You're going to have to punch it in and see what your calculator tells you if you don't want to memorize it. On the top one, whenever our 0 is on top, if you type it in, 0 divided by negative 1, you're going to get an answer of 0. Because what that means is we have 0 candy bars, and we want to divide it into negative 1 groups. Well, if I don't have any candy bars, I'm not going to have any groups. So that's how I get an answer of 0. On this one, this is like saying I have negative $21 and I want to divide it into nothing. Well, that's not physically possible because you can't take something you have and make it into nothing. Okay, so your calculator is going to tell you can't divide by 0. And that's going to mean that our answer is undefined. So remember, that's the line that is perfectly vertical. So you can either write the word undefined or you can write it as a 0 with a slash through it. All right, real quick, the only other answer that I want to go over is if you complete a problem and you come up with a negative number on the top and a negative number on the bottom. Guys, a double negative, so 2 negatives, just like any other time in math, is going to make a positive answer. So you're going to want to change it into a positive answer. But of course, make sure that you can simplify if possible. Okay? I know that seemed pretty quick. So if you need to go back and watch any part of this, then rewind it, go through a couple more problems, listen to it again. But you're going to use that formula every time. And the big thing is to make sure that you do the math correctly and make sure you simplify.